Hello YouTube peeps, I hope you like that little showcase thing that I did at the beginning there. You know, there's my wizardry thing going on. He's a wizard, Harry. Anyway, X99 build. I've been being pestered for a little while from a few different people about when is the X99 build coming. Right, okay, here it is. In all of its magnificent glory. Now what do I have in the system? Well, before I start getting onto the specifications, first of all, you may have noticed a very hastily posted video about some of the stuff that's going inside this machine. That was all recorded on my old camera. I'm not happy with any of it at all, but there's no way for me to replicate it at all. Now the reason being is because I've already unboxed everything and got the whole damn thing working, so I can't really redo it again. So take that video for what it is. It's unfinished, unpolished, whereas this one, even though it's unscripted, as you can tell, should be a little bit better. So what have I got in here? We have an Intel Core i7 5820K. Now that is a 6-core processor with hyper-threading. I have used the MSI utility to clock it up to 4.2 GHz, which is running perfectly well, to be quite honest. But then these CPUs do have a tendency of being little overclocking beasts, so it's kind of why I went for it. It's a tried and tested CPU that gets on with the job and does it very well. So being that it's on the X99 platform and it is kind of an enthusiast grade thing anyway, the fact that I've seen so many people using them, getting so many good results out of them, and these CPUs kind of kicking ass, I'm fairly pleased with it. So there's that. As for the memory, yes, I've gone completely overkill, and I'll explain why momentarily. I've gone for 32 gigabytes of Corsair Dominator Platinum memory. Why have I gone for 32 gig? Well, because one, I very much believe in matching sticks. I was very fortunate actually. These couldn't have been any more matching if they tried, because there is only 1 digit difference in their serial numbers. They literally, the 8 sticks that I have followed each other down the line, and I actually got sticks that had watched each other being built. I'm so pleased with that. It's unbelievable. It does my whole OCD thing the world of good. It really does. So I didn't want to, in another 2-3 years, think, oh, I should have had 32 gig. You know, there's a new game out that requires ridiculous amount of memory and whatever else. I thought, I've got the money right now, screw it, I'm going to drop the money right now and I'm going to do it now. So when in the future something changes that we don't know about right now, and I need the extra capacity, even if it's not 32 gig, even if it's like a game that requires like 12 gig of RAM or 16 gig of RAM or something like that, at least I've got the overhead to deal with it, and I don't have to worry about, I've got to sit there and scrounge on old eBadge and see, you know, if I can get the same sticks again, and you know, how many years difference between manufacturing was there, and are they using the same DIMMs, and I don't want any of that. 32 gig went in there, that's what I'm happy with, that's what it is. You may have noticed as well, obviously the 1070s, but the fact that I purchased into NVIDIA Snake Oil, I've got the high bandwidth bridge. Under 4K, honestly, it's meaningless. It's completely meaningless. Using it, I have seen a slight FPS increase, but that's by about 4-5 frames per second. It's not really worth dropping the money. The only thing that was worth dropping the money for, and I've got to be completely honest, totally honest with you, it was the looks. Obviously this bridge was designed for the 1070s and the 1080s, and I kind of wanted it to complete the look. So feel free to shoot me for that. You know, it's you know, I'm being stupid and everything else, but I wanted it for the looks. And let's be honest, if you're going to spend, you know, sort of, it was getting on for £2,300 UK, roughly. You're going to want it to look good, which brings us on to the other thing. I went with the Corsair, not the Corsair, the Phanteks Enthoo Pro M case again. Reason being is I was very, very happy with my last one. Really happy with it. It's got a very intelligent design. It's quite sturdy as well, and in this one they've actually learnt a couple of things. Screw hole threads are much better cut, so we don't have any cross-threading issues. They have finally put mesh in these side panels that didn't have mesh in them before, so now we've got a little bit more filtration, although I do have my own filters in the front of that anyway to help with the situation. I did go for the acrylic side panel. In retrospect, that might not have been such a good idea. I do agree with other reviewers and other tech YouTube people who've looked at this case. Yes, I agree with the statement that it very much feels like an afterthought. It does. It does. It could have been implemented better. I'm also not quite happy with some of the finish on it either. It seems like it was very rushed and quite cheap. It looks good when it's on, but when you get right up close and personal, there's defects. So it is what it is. For the price bracket for the case, you can't really do much better, to be honest. One of the things that is not standard, which I'm fairly sure sticks out like a sore thumb, is the fact that I have used some heat resistant double-backed foam on the inside of the machine to cover up the entire basement and the holes for the custom water cooling, which I don't have, out the back. Two reasons I've done this. One, airflow. Would you believe I did notice a decrease in temperatures, primarily because the air's got nowhere to just easily escape from. The other thing is looks. There was a couple of things that bothered me. Now, on my old system, using the same case but with the regular side panel, it wasn't an issue, and that's the basement. I appreciate Fantech's thoughts in giving us a bracket for an SSD and giving us a cutout for the power supply. That's great. The one thing that was inexcusable, however, in a case that's filled with rubber grommets, why for the cables for the SSD was there no rubber grommet? I never understood that. That seems a complete waste. So that kind of annoyed me. The other thing that bothered me is with my Corsair RM850X, the label is a bit too long, so you can't actually see the full thing from here, so it was irrelevant to me. I've covered it up because I kind of want all eyes on the main event, to be quite honest, mostly my own. I would prefer to look at that instead of little things that annoy me, so I've covered it up. It's not the world's best job at the moment. It is very much a rough situation, but what I've got in there I will use as templates, and I will actually get perfectly straight cut and redo that again. I'm also using some craft tape that's got like a felt backing for the joins and things, so unfortunately, this foam, when it meets up together, you are going to see the inside of this foam. So I've used this black tape to cover those joins, and it looks good until you get right up close and personal again, and you can see where I've made a couple of small mistakes. That will be rectified. It doesn't bother me so much at the moment, but I know that needs to be changed, so that's going to be changed. Now what I will do is, at a later date, I can't say when because I've got other commitments at the moment, including stuff that's off YouTube, so I've got quite a lot going on at the moment. What I will do is I will put everything down to its standard clock speeds and whatnot. I will show you some benchmarks results on Valley, Firestrike, Haven and Cinebench, so you can get an idea of what this can do with the stock speeds out the box. In terms of overclocking and everything else, well, I can give you my overclocking results and whatnot, but it may not be the same as what you'll get even with the same clocks. Overclocking and whatnot, when it comes to comparing benchmarks with other people and putting the benchmark results on YouTube and stuff like that, there's plenty of other people doing it as far as I'm concerned. I don't need to you know, put my hat in the ring as well, so to speak, because what I do may be completely different to other people, and we may get the same results or different results, and it just becomes a mess of problems for people who just want a quick, straight answer. The fact of the matter is yes, it can overclock. I will overclock the CPU slightly, and I will up the XMP profile on the memory a little bit as well. Do I want to do any overclocks to the video cards? No, not really, to be quite honest. No, not really. My 550 Ti's that were in my last system, as you guys know, I was able to play like GTA 5 at 1080p at 60 frames a second, pretty much solid as well, on low and medium settings. That little machine was a killer little machine. She really was. I missed that machine, something awful. The fact of the matter is this machine, whatever game that I throw at it, anything at all, especially if it's SLI optimised, which a lot of my games are SLI optimised, everything's ultra. Everything's 60 frames a second plus, easy. Just the machine's not even spinning the fans up that much at all. It's still pretty much, it's almost whisper quiet, because the machine's not being taxed, so to speak. One thing that I forgot to mention, which I'll mention quickly before I end the video, is I do have the new Corsair ML140 fans. Yes, they are good. Out of the 6 that I received, 1 did have an imbalance, so not too happy about that. But as I only needed 5, 2 in the front, 2 at the top, 1 at the rear, I kind of have just left that situation. It shouldn't have happened regardless, but to be quite honest, that's one of a handful, if that, of all the Corsair products I've ever bought that's got a fault. So I'm not going to hold it against them. It's just a simple thing, and I'm not really that concerned. In terms of noise, these fans are quiet. They will go from an RPM range of 400 RPM to 2000. They push a lot of air. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but you're looking high 80s. And yeah, they tend to do the job quite well. As for the cooler, we've got the Corsair Hydro H110i GT whatever. It's the 280mm version. Just, you know, we'll put it nice and simply. It's the 280mm version. Do I suggest it in this case, with this motherboard, with this RAM? No, don't do it. Don't do it at all, and I'll tell you why. Whilst it's in there, and it works, because I wanted it so you could see the new fans, because they've got a nice profile on the side of them, and I wanted it so you could see the radiator. But I also wanted to still be able to use that tray that Fantex has, where you undo the 2 screws and you can pull it out to clean it nice and easily, without obviously installing the fans in the top of the machine. Clearance is a problem. Clearance is almost a huge problem. They're not quite touching, but it's close. I can get 3 pieces of A4 paper together, sandwiched together, and just about slide them between the heat sinks on the memory and the radiator. Talk about cutting it fine, that is really cutting it fine. It is in there, it isn't touching. There's no point in me trying to show you, because to be honest the gap is so small that you're not going to see it on camera at all. You'd actually have to be here and look at it in person. But it's not an issue, system's fine. There is, like I say, there's no touching, so there's no, you know, the RAM isn't dissipating heat into the radiator or anything, because you know, you've got metal on metal contact. There's nothing like that going on at all. It's working perfectly fine. Overall, am I happy with my purchase? Oh yes. Oh, by a long shot. It's fairly insane, to be quite honest. It's also, it's so nice as well to just be able to pick up a game, put it in the machine, you know, whether that be through a download or through a physical disc, whatever, and just go. No having to worry about, oh, I've got to sit here and I've got to configure this and configure that, and I've got to play with this setting and play with that setting. I can just go, you know what, screw it, ultra, done. And this machine responds very well to that. One of the prime examples, I am kind of having a bit of a Star Wars thing recently. Can you not tell? I've got Admiral Akbar, I've got Darth Vader as my desk buddies at the moment. Poor Claptrap's kind of just sat in the back there looking as if to say, yep, okay, now I'm afraid. And obviously with the Stormtrooper wallpaper, etc. Picked up Star Wars Battlefront for the PC. Yay! The funny thing was looking at the back of this, looking at the specifications. You know, it says you need a Core i3 6300T or equivalent, 8 gig of RAM, but then when it came to the video cards, that's where I would have struggled with my old system. So, recommended NVIDIA card, GeForce 660. Now, obviously, I had a 550 Ti in SLI, but still 550 Ti. That would have been a problem. It was so nice to just be able to pick this up and say, right, install, go, ultra settings, done. The machine sits there and plays it at like 150 frames a second. I should really have VSync turned on, to be quite honest. And I know I should have VSync turned on, but I couldn't be bothered. Ultra settings, 150 frames a second in Star Wars Battlefront. I'm not going to argue. Grand Theft Auto 5 for this machine is nothing. Nothing at all. You can sit and you can run all the benchmarks in the world. You can sit there and play with GTA 5 as much as you like in terms of settings and whatever else. The fact of the matter is if you build a system like this with this specification, GTA 5 is nothing to this thing at all. I mean, the fans on the video cards are barely even spinning up, to be quite honest. When I say that, I mean to the point where I don't even notice without actually thinking about it that they've even spun up. So, and the temperatures, you're talking mid-60s, if that. It's fairly ridiculous. So I'm going to cut this video here and leave it at that. I will do a follow-up video at some point in regards to the custom interior thing that I'm doing. May even add a table and chairs, who knows. I will do an update for that. I may possibly even think about, if I get it 100% right, I'm perfectly happy with it, I may put up the dimensions and some specifications so people can actually cut their own for this case. I'm not promising that, we'll see how it goes, but there's a good chance that that will happen. The other thing that I was going to say, I completely forgotten, to be quite honest. There you go, that's how unscripted this whole thing is. I've completely forgotten. There we are. And I will do a follow-up video with stock speeds, benchmarks, etc. for your viewing pleasure. So thank you very much for watching, comment, subscribe, etc. And I will catch you all in the next video and whatnot. Goodbye.